This is Station KLAK, 640 AM, Sioux Falls, South Dakota. We are currently building a better, stronger station for your listening enjoyment. Please tune in at noon today to hear the new KLAK.
And welcome to the Oddity Archive, the show that enjoys broadcasting into a void, which I guess in a sense makes it not really broadcasting at all, but let's stick with broadcasting in the legal sense. So, case in point, the Archive's little radio station, KLAK 640 and sometimes 1240 AM, I think it's due for a little change. So at noon today, we're going to switch over to a new format. And funnily enough, that's going to be right about the time that I finish shooting this episode. So I figured since this is going to be happening, and I will let you stick around to experience it for yourself, it seemed like a good time to take a look at one of those truly uniquely quirky radio industry things, at least here in the US. And this is something that actually happens on a semi-regular basis. It's known as stunting. So most commonly, this is when a radio station switches formats. But instead of just at whatever set time kicking from the old format to the new one, they'll put a little space in between the old and the new. And they'll fill it up with any number of things, and it's a means of getting a little publicity. And this can go anywhere from just a few minutes to a few months. Now, you've already seen the most currently common form of stunting in the intro to this episode, so just to get the ball rolling here, so to speak, here's a real-life example of that method of stunting.
This is 1260 AM WPHB Phillipsburg and 104.1 FM W281CB Phillipsburg. If you've enjoyed hearing classic favorites here for the past 3 months, you can still hear it at 100.7. That's right, Classic Favorites WTRN continues to broadcast to Phillipsburg and the Moshannon Valley on 100.7.
Get it? We're building a new station. Well, initially, when I set out to make this episode, I thought it would be just a fun, extended little jab at one of the more quirky parts of the radio business. But for the first time in just under 10 years of making this show, the more I've gotten into it, the angrier I've gotten at the concept. I feel like the deeper I've gotten into this, the more I've stumbled onto quite possibly the most cynical part of the radio business. This episode is going to be all about corporate shuffling and lame local radio wars and ego trips on the management's part, and in some respects, kind of a race to the bottom, both in terms of business and content. So anyway, since we're already kind of doing the sound effects and low effort transition thing here, let's just finish up that idea. So this first block represents the lamest of the lot. About as charitable as I get with these is that some of them, you get 2 lame stunts for the price of one.
The number you have reached, 947, is temporarily being repaired. Time of restored service is scheduled for 9:47 tomorrow morning. Your appointment is confirmed. 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 94.7.
I love New York.
I love New York.
I love New York.
I love New York. I love New York. We love New York.
Now more than ever. I love New York.
The 98 Rock and Roll Reconstruction. Who's next?
Yeah, I think you ought to put some more Leonard Skinner on there, because we're in Florida, and Leonard Skinner's a Florida band, American band. I think it'd go just good with Led Zeppelin and Pink Floyd.
Hi, we want to hear the Grateful Dead.
Bob Seger and the Bullet Band. ZZ Top would be my vote.
We'll take calls until 12 noon and then announce the winner. This is the radio station that will play only the best. 98 Rock.
And here on W4, you're in on the ground floor. In the meantime, we provided this tone for your entertainment. Use it to call your dog, adjust your home recording equipment, annoy your neighbors, or as a reminder where you left your radio. There are hundreds of reasons. No, strike that. Make it thousands of reasons to keep this tone on. $25,000. Keep it on W4.
Somebody's walking away with $25,000. Well, that could pay some of my legal bills just hours from now. It's going to happen. W4 is giving away $25K when we make this tone go away. A special telephone number will be revealed soon, so keep it on W4. By the way, did I mention that my wife's running for senator?
WOTW, Windermere, Orlando, a JVC broadcasting station. The biggest names in country have a new home.
We're Florida Georgia Line.
Hey, I'm Miranda Lambert.
I'm Jason Aldean, and I'm howling on the wolf. Ow! Broadcasting live from the Wolf Den, Orlando's new home for country hits and throwbacks. We are 1031 The Wolf.
One of my big problems with stunting also happens to be arguably my biggest gripe with life in general these days. And that is, you can't out-stupid reality. I mean, really, when self-awareness dies, so does satire. And I hope it comes back someday. But anyway, a case in point, this next switchover is something that I would do as a parody, both of stunting and of just the radio business in general. Unfortunately, it's 100% real. I mean, this is something I would have done as part of this episode, but after this one, I can't think of anything dumber. So with that, to fill you in, there was and still is a venerable rock station in Denver, effectively the Archive's old hometown, with the call letters KBPI, and they've changed frequencies a few times over the years. Now, the last time they did it, which would be right around the end of 2017, their old frequency got filled by bull. Well, what is bull, you might ask? It's a country station. You can't make this bull up. And really, did Denver really need that 14th country station?
Wait, someone loaded the wrong mixtape. That sounds like something out of the general manager's office. Hang on a minute. This should be it. Let's go big, y'all. Yeah, buddy. Come on. Time for something new around here. Brand new. You ready?
Now, every now and then, that stupidity, quite satisfyingly, blows up in the perpetrators' faces, said the guy with a box in front of him. Anyway, these next two stations are good examples of that, and also with some equally stupid stunting, so kind of two for the price of one here. So in both cases, these were kind of flop format changes. In one case, it didn't last too terribly long, and it ultimately somewhat reverted back to its original format. And then in the other case, it sank to the bottom of the ratings, but it's kind of like its current owners have just kind of forgotten about it, and as of my making this episode, it just kind of lingers, but here's hoping that its end comes soon.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
WTYC, Altamont Springs, W288CJ, Vito, a JBC broadcasting station. 660 AM, 105.5 FM, Florida Man Radio.
Deputies say the video shows a man in costume having inappropriate sexual contact with a Siberian husky.
Police say he hit a man with a big-mouth Billy Bass on Sunday. This Florida man accused of stealing a Jeep, then returning to the Winter Haven home where he took it from to ask if anybody had seen his missing cell phone.
The guy who allegedly tries to go into this convenience store behind me trying to trade a 4-foot alligator for a 12-pack of beer.
We have no earthly idea what we're doing, but we're doing it so badass. What the hell is Florida Man Radio?
What's that supposed to mean?
Well, we're in Florida. We're men, and we're on the radio. You got some kind of a learning disability?
So what do we call this thing?
Florida Man Radio.
Yes.
We can't overlook it's an image problem and a problem that you might want to address yourself.
Women do get weary wearing the same shabby dress.
That was the Partridge Family's Doesn't Somebody Want to Be Wanted, followed by Edison Lighthouse's Love Grows Where My Rosemary Goes.
So come on, be nimble, be quick.
Start spreading the news.
Little ditty about Diane. Hit the road. Don't you come back no more, no more, no more, no more.
101.1 WCBS FM New York.
Hi there. Mind if I have a word? Thanks. Who am I? Well, I'm not Howard Stern, but you probably guessed that. Anyway, I've got a question. Why don't we just play what we want? Now we need a name. Jack. All right, that's it. 101.1 Jack FM. Okay, what else? You? You can listen as long as you adhere to two simple rules. 1, we play what we want. And 2, don't tell us what to play. Good? Good.
With Jack FM in mind, let's devote a few minutes to that trend of naming your station. So stuff like Jose or Jack or Alice, and incidentally, Denver had the latter two of those. But my best guess is that some marketing genius somewhere thought it would be a good idea to just name a station as opposed to you trying to remember the call letters, which isn't always the easiest thing to do. And that wouldn't be too bad an idea, except when the format is as mundane as the name that you've appended to it, it becomes self-defeating. So most famously, Jack FM. And I don't know how many of these stations are left, but they were all across America at one point. And the format, at least at the time of launch, was 70s, 80s, 90s, and then current stuff. Problem was, they just kind of took the most common tunes of each decade, boiled them down, and just mashed them into a single station. So it's just the same old overplayed hits, just with the time frame opened up a little more. So with that, for this next segment, I want to take a look at, I guess you could say, the origin of what led to the second most common named station, which at one point was just about as ubiquitous as Jack, although the format changed to something very similar to Jack. But this is the original from Minneapolis back in the 90s. And I feel like I kind of have to do this one because I know there's a lot of fans of Mystery Science Theater 3000 that watch this show. And this inspired a fairly famous sketch on the original MST3K, and that would be Turn Your Crank to Frank. Now, the station is not known as Frank, but you'll pick up on it, and I will play a bit of the commercial that directly inspired that little sketch. But to me, what's really noteworthy about this is the stunting that led up to the launch of this station in 1993. I mean, it's a fairly elaborate bit of stunting and also kind of a troll move. You would never guess the final format that the station became.
WBOB, Minneapolis.
Fellas, don't drink that coffee. You'd never guess. There was a fish in the percolator.
Anyone for a warm-up?
Oh, yeah.
You bet.
Right over here. Damn good coffee. And hot.
Who? The first base. Who? The guy playing first.
Who is on first?
I'm asking you who's on first.
That's the man's name.
That's whose name?
Yes.
Well, go ahead and tell me.
That's it.
That's who?
Yes.
One pill makes you small.
Here comes Peter Cottontail.
It's time to pay back for those jokes.
What? What, Lord?
Let's see how you like this tune.
Oh, girls, welcome to the Delta Toga Party. Come in. Here, let me take your coat. Oh, great pair of togas.
WBOB.
Turn your knob to Bob. Bob, 100 FM. Bob plays a ton of new country. Garth.
Reba.
Clint.
Winona.
I love my Bob. Turn your knob to Bob.
Bob, 100 FM.
I'll give this next one this much. At least some pretty decent effort went into this one. Granted, it's still one of the most absolutely stupid things I've ever heard, but I'll give credit where it's due. So anyway, back in 1989, Tampa, Florida-based WFLZ changed formats from oldies to top 40. And they spent their final week as an oldies station, known as Z93, basically harassing the parodies of, I hope, the staff and management of another station in town, Q105. And they were going to become competitors soon. So in this harassing the other station, they made a little ransom demand. If you pay us $2 million, we will remain an oldies station and you won't have to deal with us. If we don't get the money, we're going to go over to top 40 and we're going to destroy your station. In the ratings, of course. Well, of course, it was all just one big stunt and they were going to become a top 40 station no matter what. But there was a little bit of brilliance to this in that they carried forward this newfound aggressive streak to the new station. And to finish up the story, the new station, the top 40 station, became known as the Power Pig. And I think it's kind of funny because, let's face it, the top 40 in the late 80s and early 90s, for the most part, wasn't too terribly aggressive. But anyway, they that name was triply apt. One, they brought over that aggressive streak. Two, they used that aggressive streak to openly antagonize listeners. There's clips out there of them getting into pretty nasty arguments for seemingly no reason with callers into the station. And third, and most tellingly, behind the scenes, the station devolved into basically a haven for frequent, blatant sexual harassment, oftentimes involving sex toys. So it took a while, but the Power Pig, I think rightly, was led to the slaughter in 1995.
Good time oldie Z93. It's 7:38. Somebody from Q105 just called and wanted to hear this next song having to do with that $2 million they have to get us by 5 o'clock tomorrow.
John, rock and roll, Anthony, Z93. Give me just a little more time.
The broadcasters of your area have developed this test so we can consider kicking Q105's ass. Had this been an actual format change, you would have been instructed to lock it in and rip the knob off.
Z93, $2 million by 5 o'clock tomorrow, Mason Dixon. We're going to apply to kick your ass.
You know what? Another thing that boy did. One day he put a dead fish under my couch. My wife came in, and I thought I had groupies in there again.
Must have been blind groupies. Mason, just pay the $2 million and take Cleveland.
Well, maybe I should. He does have some bits that are better than mine, but he locks them up so I can't get to them. Once I had to get a big pair of cutters to cut the lock off his locker so I could steal his bits.
Mason, we've all heard about the current hostage crisis over at Z93. Unless Q105 pays up, Z93 is going to change formats to top 40. Now that the latest ratings have come out, what is the general attitude at Q105?
Kind of a drag.
And where are your ratings going?
Slip sliding away.
Well, Mason, what is the most common complaint you hear from your listeners?
You talk too much.
Who's afraid of the big vacuum? The big vacuum, the big vacuum. Who's afraid of the big vacuum? Na, 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 na.
Silver Country Club, may I help you?
Yes, could you give us Gary Eden's room, please? E-D...
What's the last name?
Edens. E-D-E-N-S, like the Garden of Eden. Edens.
Okay, just a minute.
Hello? Hey, Gary, this is Jack Harris and Dr. Don Carpenter back in Tampa. We're on the air. I hope we didn't wake you up this morning.
No, you didn't. I always enjoy being awakened at this time.
Oh, well, that's nice. We'll do it again tomorrow then. How's that? Matter of fact, for the right figure, we'd do it every day. Absolutely. Now, what we're calling about is, we went through that whole thing last week and never really got any response from you or Q105, and we thought one last time, what the heck, give you a chance to come up with a $4 million.
Come on, guys. Looking forward to it.
Oh, you are you? Well, I tell you what, you're right here on the inaugural broadcast. Are you ready to uncork this thing and let her fly?
Let's go.
Last chance.
Have a happy day.
Here it goes.
For today's last story and montage, let's try and end things on a somewhat more positive note, albeit in the most darkly funny way possible. Now, back in late 1992, Detroit-based top 40 station WDFX, also known as The Fox, had been through a change of ownership. And the new owners wanted to change the format, which of course they did. But I guess as a bit of thumbing their nose at the new management, and I think just at corporate radio in general, they decided to turn the Fox, just for one day only, funnily enough, Christmas Eve, turn it into a country station. And as a bit of satire against the ever-tightening corporate radio playlists, a country station with only one song in its library, Friends in Low Places by Garth Brooks. And there was still a DJ on duty. I think it was pre-recorded. But there was plenty of patter, and every segment would be the DJ taking calls from listeners, taking suggestions, increasingly grisly ones, on how to kill the fox. And, he would try to kill the fox via sound effects and fail every time. And, oh well, that didn't work. And then the caller would just magically suggest playing Friends in Low Places, and they would want it dedicated to just magically the same person every single time. So then it gets to be midnight. We're heading into Christmas morning here, and the whole thing just gives way to a computer text-to-speech program. And the whole thing starts at, I had to write the number down to make sure I got it right, number 63,752. So in the time it took to count down from that starting point, it was 3 days. So on the one hand, it was nice. It gave everybody Christmas off. But it also gave the new people a couple of days to try and set up. But it didn't go too well for the new people. And I don't think the old people had anything to do with this, but they just encountered technical problem after technical problem. And it wound up being January 4th by the time the news station went on the air. WOWF News Talk. Well, as it turned out, the news talk station totally bombed, and it went under by May. It got replaced with a country station. And better yet, the DJ that spearheaded the whole Kill the Fox movement wound up becoming one of the DJs at the new country station. Whereupon I would bet pretty heavily he had to play fairly frequently Friends in Low Places, completely unironically.
We just want to take a moment to inform you that no actual animals are being harmed in the production of the Cowboy Hugh Chardon show. The more difficult stunts are being performed by trained stunt foxes and station interns wearing full fur coats, but the weapons and power tools are real. WOWF, Detroit.
My, it sure looks a lot like Christmas here at 99.5 FM. People doing last-minute shopping, traveling to visit the relatives, and helping us kill off the fox. Damien from Hamtramck, welcome to the Cowboy Hugh Chardon Show.
Hey, Cowboy Hugh, how's about stuffing that old fox down the garbage disposer? I do that with my sister's toys all the time, or did, till the state took me away from my folks.
Why, that's a good idea there, Damien. Tail first or head first? Oh, hell, let's just shove him in and see what happens. Come on now, get in there. Ah, well, damn, he's a little too big for all of him to fit in at once. Guess we could hack him up first, but that would be inhumane.
All right, I'd like to request a song.
Is it Friends in Low Places by Garth Brooks?
Yes, it is.
Whoa, how about that? Would you like to dedicate it to Bobby G. Stahl out there in Birmingham?
Well, I most certainly would.
Well, here it is for you. Thanks for calling.
Thank you.
I'm just kind of surprised what y'all doing.
Well, think up of an idea. Stabbing him with scissors, maybe breaking a whiskey bottle and goring him through the neck.
Don't you think that's a little sad?
A little sad?
Yeah. It's Christmas, man. Y'all getting kind of sick now, aren't you?
You're not a hunter, are you?
And we got some of this excess radioactive coolant water. And we think old Foxy would just love to take a bath in that.
Well, I think that'd do him in short order, don't you think?
I think it'd at least turn him green.
I just happen to have a 55-gallon drum of radioactive coolant water right up here with me. Picked it up last week from you guys, and of course, a mighty big tip of the hat here to you all for sending that up. We do appreciate it.
No problem.
And thank you for calling, Mr. Dover. Radioactive coolant water right here. Whoa, look at him bubble. It's a-glowing. There's little sparks are flying and everything. Woo-wee! I'll tell you what, let me just put on...
Done.
Do what?
When he turns green, he's done.
Oh, he's green now. Let me put on my lead-lined glove and just kind of fish him out here just a little bit. And, well, what do you know? Little Foxy's still alive.
You should just pour gas on him and set him on fire.
Well, that's a great idea. Now, you and the young'uns, you have yourself a Merry Christmas, okay? And I'll talk to you a little bit later. Let me think about this now. Gas. I ain't got no gas. Oh, but I do got me a can of turpentine. Well, let's try it. I'll just soak old Mr. Fox down here with some turpentine. Doot-de-doot-de-doodly-doo. Strike me a match and... I'll tell you, he's a burning, all right. But so are the walls and the ceiling. Hell, everything's burning.
Well, Hugh, I figured we'd just toss him in the garage. Start the car and close the door.
Well, that works for me.
It works for a lot of my customers, Hugh. Here we go.
Nothing personal here, doctor, but shouldn't we be somewhere else?
What? And miss this? Not on your life. Look, I think he's just about dead.
Why, you did it there, Dr. Kevorkian. We knew you could. Thanks you a whole lot for coming in.
My pleasure. It's always my pleasure.
Well, that's it. The fox is done dead. And that's about it for me, too. I'm gonna go home and spend the Christmas holiday with my family, but, I'll be seeing you again real soon, partners.
Let's start the countdown, and when we reach 0, get ready for something entirely different. Count along with us if you like. Here we go.
63,752.
Well, we're pushing noon here, so given that KLAK has such a piss-poor reception area, I guess I'll just go ahead and tell you a little early what the new format is going to be, and then I'll just patch you into the direct feed from the studio. So before I give the big announcement here, I feel like I should say, you may or may not know this already, but KLAK, for its entire existence, the last 7 years or so now, has been my little labor of love. It's my little hodgepodge of rock, pop, R&B, etc. from the mostly 60s, 70s, and 80s, and a lot of deep cuts and some hits along the way. It's kind of my little tribute to the old underground FM stations, so I kind of like to think of my station as America's last old school rock station. But times change, and we gotta change with it. So the new format is gonna be all 1940s hits. Granted, I can't think of much of any 40s artists, like Spike Jones, Tommy Dorsey, a few others. I'm kind of out of my depth here, aren't I? But by the same token, I think this is a good way of thumbing our nose at the state of radio today. You didn't think I was going to go current top 40, did you? So anyway, the switchover is going to take place in about 2 minutes here. And let me just tell you how it's going to go down. There will be no stunting. I want this to be dignified. So we're going to sign off, properly sign off with the national anthem. And not only that, the currently oldest known recording of the national anthem, because that's just how we roll at KLAK.
Good night, Mrs. Calabash, wherever you are.
I think we ought to cook up a little Texas chili.
Yeah?
And I think you and that old fox ought to get in the closet for about an hour.
Oh, so I'd be eating the chili.
You'd be eating the chili.
With beans.
With beans. Definitely with beans.
Definitely with beans. And we just lock ourselves in the closet.
A little gaze chamber.
Well, I think we'll give that a go. Matter of fact, I just happen to have had some chili last night, and I think it's beginning to do its job right now. So we'll just shut the closet door here.